Moving to a new home is the perfect chance for a fresh start.
Do you like this new house? Yeah? Do you like your new school?
Yeah.
Having lived in Nottingham for most of her life, in January 2013, single mom Sam White moved to Derby for a new beginning.
The area seemed clean, it seemed excellent, it seemed fabulous. It was a nice fresh start, a nice house.
A few days after moving in, Sam bumped into her next-door neighbours, Philip Hansley and his girlfriend.
And he had a massive smile on his face and kind of looked me up and down, and not in a nasty way, but in more of a provocative type of manner. I wouldn't say he fancied me, but maybe there was a level of, oh, I've got a pretty girl moving next door. I'm not saying I'm pretty, but that's the impression I got from him. My first impressions of them was, oh my Lord, they look rough, but give them the benefit of the doubt.
Sam also had reservations about another female neighbour over the road.
There was a lot of alcohol around the house, constant marijuana smoking, people coming in and out of the house. I felt bad for her to some point, but at the same time I had to protect me and my child.
We spoke to the neighbour in question, who denies using cannabis and says she rarely drinks alcohol. Sam decided neither she nor Sienna would have anything to do with either family.
From that day onwards, I was continuously getting verbal abuse, shouting out of her window or out of Philip Hansley's window. I was definitely being ganged up on because they were friends, and I'd be called prostitute, slag. One of Philip's favourite words were, "You're a witch." You could tell they were just literally sitting by the window waiting for me to come out.
Sam called the police to report both neighbours for the abuse.
Nothing could be done. Hearsay, my word against theirs.
Philip Hansley's girlfriend agreed to speak to us, but asked that we hide her identity.
Allegations that she's made against me or Phil are completely untrue, because we've never done anything to her at all. This is a nice street, it's quiet, people tend to keep themselves to themselves. Everybody's civil and polite, and I've never really had any bother with anybody else.
But later that summer, the situation took a more sinister turn.
I was sat here one evening watching television when I actually heard a car screech outside my house. So I automatically got up because it was very, very loud and walked over to the window. The bass was so loud on this, it was unbelievable. It was a summer's night. I had the window open. Two very tall guys got out of the car, and then one of them turned around, one of the guys, turned around and says, "We've come for you, bitch." And I'm like, oh, really? And at that point, I automatically was frightened to death, and I turned and ran into my hallway quick as I possibly could to make sure that the chain was on the door, but they were already in my house. Within seconds, one of the guys pressed me against the wall, I believe it was with his hands, and pinned me back against the wall, got his arms against my shoulders, but I couldn't move, and I was shouting, "Get off me, get off me, get off me." And it was like, "We've got you now, bitch, we're here for you, bitch." There was a guy stood behind him that kept panicking and looking out the front door because the door was wide open and the music was still blaring out of the car, and it was still parked in the middle of the road. And he said, "Come on, get out, get out, get out the house now." And they ran. They literally let go and ran.
Sam called the police, blaming the family over the road.
The police went and had a word with them, came back to me and said, "Look, we've had a word with these guys. There was no independent witnesses yet again. It's your word against theirs. We can't really do anything. We've told them to stay away from you, but we can't arrest them because nobody else saw it apart from you and them."
The neighbour over the road insists that it was Sam who verbally abused the two men.
Very afraid for my daughter at this point, afraid for our lives. I just had this wrenching feeling 24 hours a day in my stomach that we weren't safe.
One night later that summer, Sam and Sienna got home to find the electricity was down in their home. Sam called out an emergency electrician, and while he was trying to fix it, the woman over the road appeared.
She shouted across, "Why are you getting electricians out? What are you wasting their time for, you slag?" And I remember the electrician saying to me, "Oh my God, what is going on here?"
Now Sam had an independent witness to the abuse. She called the police, and they arrived moments later.
The officers then took his telephone number down and says, we're going to go back to the station and do some more investigating. I went, what? I've been verbally abused by somebody that I've had problems with in the past, and you're going to go back to the station and investigate without even going to speak to these neighbours. I said, you know what, just piss off. And I did. At that point, I was fuming with the police, and yeah, I did use bad language towards them, but at that point, I just wasn't bothered anymore.
The two officers left, and with the electrician unable to restore power, Sam began to investigate the problem alone. Seemingly unaware that the box on the front wall also controlled the supply to her neighbour Philip Hansley's home. A CCTV camera belonging to the woman opposite captured what happened next.
At some point, by switching one of the electric boxes off, I believe the one on the front of the house, Philip came out and started effing and blinding. At this point, I, for my own self-protection, had my mobile phone on me, on video. I clearly warned him. I said, look, Phil, I'm videoing this. Leave us alone. I'm just trying to get some electricity on. Please, 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 leave us alone. We're frightened.
Annoyed at being filmed, Philip snatched Sam's mobile phone and made his way over the road to talk to the woman opposite. But Sam was determined to get her phone back.
And he throws my phone across the road. He slapped me pretty hard. I kick out in self-defence, kickboxing. I do go back at him, but not to hurt him, just to get him off me.
With the situation spiralling out of control, Philip decided to take action.
Wow, and then you can see where he takes me down. The neighbour who lived across the road comes out and I get taken down to the floor. Philip had his hand around my throat so I could barely breathe. She was threatening to douse me in petrol and set me on fire. She proceeded to spit on me, I think 3 times. She'd got hold of my hair by one of her hands and she was smashing my head on the floor. And I heard it smash, I could hear it crack.
The woman in question denies spitting, hitting or threatening Sam and says she was only helping Philip to restrain her. But Sienna, who had been tucked up in bed, heard shouting, so came outside to investigate.
Sienna's face was white. It was just white, like a ghost.
While Sam was pinned to the road, her neighbours called the police.
Very quickly I heard the sirens and she went, right, Phil, get off her now. Get off and let her go. At this point I was covered in spit. I was covered in cuts and bruises. My hair was all over the place. I had a cut on my leg, all on my arms.
The police arrived and spoke to everyone involved. Philip's girlfriend agreed to tell us her version of what happened, but asked that we conceal her identity.
We know for a fact that she switched the electricity off, because she can see it. There were no accidents. She did it purposely because she turned it off twice. You can see the lights going off in our house. She did it to get a reaction out of us, just to cause trouble. She were putting the phone up into his face, so he took the phone off her, and she climbed over the fence and she started attacking him. She were the one that were doing all the violent acts that night. None of us did anything at all. Neither did those two when they were holding her down. They were just restraining her because she was like a wild animal.
The police officers again came back into my house and said, we're arresting you on suspicion of assault. And I said, what?
Sienna stayed with friends while Sam was taken to the police station for questioning and kept overnight.
Well, actually being put in the cell down here was probably the most horrific experience of my life. I was shaking, I was in fear, I was completely numb, and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be.
Sam received a caution under the Public Order Act for threatening behaviour. Philip faced charges of common assault, but all charges were dropped. He received a caution for criminal damage to Sam's phone. No charges were brought against the woman who lived opposite.
The main thing that was hurting me was not what they'd done to me, is what my daughter had seen. That's the bit I couldn't accept. An 8-year-old child should never, ever have to experience anything like that.
Sam and Sienna no longer felt safe living on the street, so have since moved away from the area.
Situation I never want to be in again, ever. I don't even feel nice being around here. I feel physically sick, to be honest with you. Just feels dark and horrible, and thank God we're out. To be honest, thank God we're out.
Sam's neighbours declined to appear in this programme, but they insist that all the problems on the estate were caused by Sam.
I still don't know why she decided to gun for us, because we've never done anything to her or any of the other neighbours on the street. It's just unbelievable, all of it. I don't understand why it happened. It just makes you feel that world's gone mad.
In Newcastle upon Tyne, Rachel Eyre moved into a flat on this square in 2003.
One of the things that I was really excited about when I first moved into the area was to be close to my friends and close to my parents. It was also really nice to be in an area that was quite secluded off the main road as well.
And Rachel wasted no time in making the block of flats feel like home.
When I first moved into the block, I did try and make it as nice as possible, because although it was a nice building, it was a little bit drab. So I got nice plants and put them all around the landings, and even got some of the stickers for the walls, which were pretty butterflies and flowers.
But not everyone appreciated her efforts.
One day I went out and my plants had all been smashed, so I'd bought a lovely little strawberry plant there. There was big holes kicked in that. There was even one incident where there was plants actually thrown out of that window there, and they were all smashed on the ledge and actually on the front as well. And it was just awful, you know, seeing things that you've looked after and you've grown yourself, and then somebody's just come in and smashed the hell out of them.
Rachel had only been in the flat a few weeks, but already had the measure of her new neighbours' friends.
I did have a fairly good idea who it was, because there was always drunks coming into the building, and they were always with Harry the Fish.
In the flat above Rachel lived Henry Nicholson, known to his friends as Harry the Fish. And Harry says Rachel's arrival in the block made waves right from the start.
We used to call Rachel the plant woman because of all our plants on the landing. She had like pictures of plants on the wall as well. She just seemed totally obsessed with plants. There was plant pots everywhere. There was plants all the way around here, all the way around here. And I do believe there was a few plant pots along there. People coming up did have a few drinks. They'd hit a plant and they just got annoyed. But I had so many people come to the house that caused complications. And it was a big issue between me and Rachel over the years. Rachel didn't just think she rented a flat, she thinks she owned the whole block.
But according to Rachel, Harry's visitors did more than just damage her plants.
There was constant noise from that flat up there, and basically there was people partying on a constant basis. There would be drunks outside my front door, there would be fighting on the stairs, the doors would be constantly kicked in, and the police were called, you know, 2-3 times a week.
This is my living room. Over the years, me and my friends used to come in and have parties. We'd sit down here, sit there, we'd have the radio on, we'd have cans of lager or cider or whatever, and put them on the table. We'd have a few rollies, cigarettes, that's the ashtray. Well, happy times, but not for everybody. Rachel would occasionally knock on the door and tell her to keep the noise down, and nobody else complained. It was just Rachel and her friend, so it wasn't that bad.
Despite calling the police out on numerous occasions, Rachel claims Harry's friend's behaviour just got worse.
There was quite a lot of urine on the landings, and obviously the drunks that came into the building would just urinate anywhere that they liked. They would urinate up the front doors. If they couldn't get into the block, there'd be urine in the hallways. There was also one incident though where there was quite a lot of faeces as well. I'd come in and I had to take my shoes off on my doormat because I wouldn't actually enter my home with my shoes because there was that much on my land, and it was horrific.
Did get out of hand. It got quite wild at times.
Harry's partying went on for 5 years, and it started to affect Rachel's health.
Yeah, I was just tired all the time, so worn out. So, you know, it got to a point where I could hardly get out of bed in the morning because I was so tired, because it was just non-stop.
Rachel was at the end of her tether, so hired a solicitor and went to the council to try to get Harry evicted from the block.
I thought Rachel was very unreasonable. You know, was very close to getting evicted. I had to go see the council. I was in front of the magistrate. The judge said it had to be quietened down, you know, for a period of time.
The fear of eviction caused Harry to rethink his lifestyle.
Since then, things have been quiet, kept the place very quiet. All the parties have stopped.
After being threatened with eviction, Harry kept his head down. But he got some new flatmates.
This is the room where Claire and Peter Headley stopped with me. They were really good people to have living here. They were good company for me. Didn't cause any trouble. Maybe had a little arguments now and again, but nothing out of the ordinary.
It wasn't long before Rachel met one of them.
I was standing with a neighbour, chatting about things that had been going on in the block, and then this woman came walking down the road and asked if I was the plant lady. I said yes, I was, and that basically she said she'd been as nice as she could be to me. And then she went to walk through those metal doors behind me. I went to follow her into the building to find out what on earth was going on. And she just went from being sort of an everyday kind of person to a monster in about 2 seconds flat. And I was dragged through the doors by the scruff of my coat, yanked down. My head was bashed off the washing machine, which was just inside the metal doors. And then as I fell to the floor, the punches were rained into the back of my head. I was trying to get back up, and this woman went running up the stairs and said that she was going to have me and have my family. I had quite bad bruises on my legs, so it was pretty horrific.
Rachel's attacker was Harry's new flatmate, 50-year-old Claire Humble. She told Harry a very different story.
Rachel lunged at her, she said. She lunged at her, and she said I retaliated by pushing Rachel. There was no mention of like any really physical abuse, like kicking or punching or anything like that. She just came upstairs and a bit stressed out.
But Rachel had already called the police, and Claire Humble was arrested and charged with assault, but she was allowed to keep living in Harry's flat.
On one occasion, Claire Humble had actually tried to get into the block, and because she couldn't get through the security doors to get into the building, she actually sat on that wall there and urinated on the wall. You know, it was pretty awful. And especially when the fact that there's, you know, quite a few children in the block as well.
Rachel also started to find mysterious scratches on her car.
As soon as I saw my car, I thought that Claire Humble was responsible. I hadn't had problems with anybody keying my car in the past. And I mean, the damage was really expensive to repair. I mean, I was absolutely heartbroken to see it.
But Harry insists Claire was the perfect flatmate, even helping to brighten up his home.
She went out and chose us paint, which you can see the colour. She started decorating. And she got a nice plaque, I love your home. So basically I think in my mind she seemed quite settled here. She would cook nice meals for me. She'd kept the house tidy, no problem whatsoever. There's some graffiti on the wall.
Claire even wrote Harry a poem.
Harry the fish served me a dish of salmon, trout and kippers. I had a few pints and I ran like hell when he tried to get into my knickers. Boom, boom, Claire Humble.
But whilst Claire was settling in, tensions between her and Rachel were beginning to get heated.
I felt totally like I was in a horror movie, you know, because she wouldn't leave us alone. I just never knew when she was going to come round the corner. I was frightened to go home at night, you know, just walking in my front door in case somebody jumped out the tree or something like that.
I could see a big conflict between Rachel and Claire, and it used to get my nerves on edge as well. I knew there was going to be, like a volcano erupting, basically.
In September 2013, 6 months after attacking Rachel, Claire Humble appeared in court and was found guilty of assault by beating. She was issued with a restraining order and told to keep away from Rachel, but to Rachel's horror, she was still allowed to live with Harry.
Everywhere I went, I turned around, she was there doing something or saying she was going to get a hold of us, or, you know, I mean, she was definitely stalking me.
Rachel couldn't bear the harassment any longer, so gradually began to move her belongings out of the flat, spending more and more time at her dad's house. But that didn't deter Claire Humble.
I came down to my car and Claire Humble was literally standing, sort of just kind of there taking photographs. I was absolutely terrified, so I just got in my car and drove off.
Rachel called the police, and Claire Humble was summoned to court for breaching her restraining order, and she was served with a community order.
It just stopped then, and for weeks, months, there was nothing, and it all seemed to settle down again, and everything was kind of returning back to normal.
Rachel finally moved out of the block for good, putting the ordeal behind her. But a year later, Claire Humble reappeared in an unexpected way.
I just heard about a murder.
In November 2014, the body of Peter Headley, Claire Humble's boyfriend, had been found dumped in woodland just outside Newcastle. Humble was arrested and charged with his murder.
But I just felt sick. I went to bed that night and I just basically held the house down. It was horrible. You know, to know that that person had been after you was awful.
I seen it in the Chronicle. I just couldn't believe it.
In March 2015, Humble appeared in court, where the grisly details of her boyfriend's murder were revealed. At his home, Peter Headley had been beaten and stabbed multiple times in a frenzied attack with pieces of broken crockery.
It really amazed me when I read about the injuries and setting the light to the body. It's like something out of a horror movie, you know. It's just totally unreal to me. It was really, really frightening.
Rachel attended the trial at Newcastle Crown Court.
I actually sat with Peter Headley's family. It was horrible. It was really horrible.
Claire Humble was found guilty of Peter Headley's murder and jailed for life, with a minimum term of 20 years.
When they actually read out the convictions, I was the last person that should violently attack before she killed Peter Headley. I felt awful for his family, but to know that that could have been you, it's horrible.
I'm still shocked now, and so are my friends. And when I come in here sometimes, I think of Claire in the room. I think, well, I could have been lying in bed and I could have had it. It's frightening.
20 years isn't enough for her. And I hope that she's in prison till the day she dies, because I don't think she's safe to be let out.
In a peaceful suburban street in Birmingham, Warren and Sherry Smith had made a home and were bringing up their young son, Lucas.
We was together for a while and then moved in together. Sherry had made it a nice home, just basically quite happy there.
Then one day in 2008, there was a new arrival on the street.
She was really nice, a really nice lady, and we built up a relationship, a friendship. Her daughter was about 7 then, and my son was 4. She was a real kind girl.
But just 2 months after the Street family moved in, the Smiths got a knock on the door.
It was a normal Friday night and we were sitting there having a chat and the doorbell rang.
And I opened the door, and the police were standing there.
They said that they'd been called out because of a noise complaint from a neighbour, which was quite shocked about because we wasn't making any noise.
We were sat, the two of us, in the kitchen, talking. Radio was on but low, and that was that.
The Smiths say the police were satisfied there was no problem. But over the coming months, Harry repeatedly complained to them that Warren and Sherry were being overly noisy.
So he complained about loud parties, he complained about banging on the wall, he complained about general antisocial behaviour. His overarching complaint was noise. At that point, all we knew was that we were dealing with an escalating neighbour dispute.
So any occasion, if it was a birthday or if there was people around, then he'd call the police. We used to think, well, what do the neighbours think, you know?
Many times I tried to talk to Harry after that. And I said, look, you know, sorry for making a noise. Here's my phone number. If you have any more problems or if there is any too much noise, just ring me. And if there's any music on, I'll make sure we turn it down.
But Harry seemed to be becoming even more interested in his neighbours.
After a while, we noticed that Harry was copying everything we did. We had a shed fitted at the top of the garden. He had exactly the same shed fitted. Down to small things like we had a pool. He'd come back an hour later and he'd have exactly the same pool in his garden. I felt very wary of Harry. There was something that niggled me about him.
And a year after he moved in, Sherry says she became more concerned about Harry Street's behaviour.
It was about 1 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't sleep and I was tossing and turning, and in the end I just thought, oh, I'm going to go downstairs and put the telly on in the conservatory so that I wouldn't wake Warren up. Eventually I must have just nodded off, and the next thing I know I was awoke by an almighty bang.
So straight away I got up and went to investigate.
We were both sort of, again, looking at each other as if to say, what on earth was that?
After a restless night, Warren woke up with one question on his mind.
So I decided to go outside into the garden to find out what the noise was. And then I saw what it was immediately that made the bang. It was golf balls. Just clicked. I knew it was Harry had been throwing golf balls off the roof. That's what it was. That's what the loud banging was. I just started thinking, you know, this bloke's getting just weirder and weirder. So the next morning I went up to the hedge when Harry got out of his car and I said, Harry, why are you throwing golf balls? He wouldn't explain himself. He wasn't interested in talking to me.
At the same time, Harry's own complaints about the Smiths now reached a whole new level.
One Saturday we were sitting around having dinner when there's a knock on the door and there's 2 police officers at the door. I asked them what the problem was and they said they've had a complaint that a woman was being attacked in the property.
We couldn't believe it. We were just in total shock, to be honest. I think I did say to them, you know, look at me. Do I look like somebody that's been attacked?
I think that's the point when we knew he was a nutcase.
Warren decided to confront Harry.
I banged his front door and I said, what are you playing at? Why are you calling police saying that people's been attacked in my house? He just muttered, mumbled, slammed the door in my face and went back in. I was fuming, to be honest. He was just trying to rag me up and he was doing a good job.
He was odd. There was something just not quite right with him.
But one evening in 2009, there was a new noise from next door.
I went into the bedroom. It wasn't late, it was about 9 o'clock, and Harry was drilling through his bedroom wall which was obviously a hammer drill. Didn't think that much of it at that point until the following morning. It's about 2:30 in the morning, and I was fast asleep, and there was the most terrific bang. My heart was going to 10 to the dozen. Sherry jumped up, we both started panicking. Lucas came running out of his bedroom. It was just sheer panic.
Carpenter Warren instantly realised what the noise was. Harry had made a hole in his bedroom wall and inserted a steel rod.
Didn't even take any thinking about it. I knew he'd got a steel rod in there, and I knew he was hitting it with a hammer.
It's like a bomb going off. It was so loud. I mean, yeah, you would think that it was, you know, something was about to come through the wall. Lucas was screaming, crying, terrified, obviously. Something like that, you don't go to sleep straight away because your nerves you're on edge. And we must have eventually dropped off. I don't know how long we've been asleep, and again. It's like he knew he'd give us time to go to sleep. And as soon as we just dropped off, another massive bang again to the wall. Warren was just going, he was ballistic. He was that close to going around there. I had to stop him from going around there.
It was now the Smiths' turn to call the police, who spoke to Harry. But it had no effect. From then on, the Smiths were to be jolted awake by banging from next door several nights every week for years.
You can imagine sleep deprivation, and before you even go to bed, you're wondering, is he going to do it? Are you going to be woke up? So then you can't get to sleep. But then you eventually get to sleep, and yeah, he'd do it. Again and again and again.
But Harry still thought he was the victim and continued to complain to police.
What we saw was an escalation in complaints from Harry Street. Between March and May 2013, it becomes clear that at that point, actually Harry Street is causing the problems, and the neighbours are the victims.
The police came numerous times about the noise, and most of the times they went round next door to speak to him and in no uncertain terms tell him what he was doing was wrong, but he didn't listen.
Once again, Warren confronted Harry. This time, he was to receive a bizarre response.
I need to find out what was going on with this bloke. Why are you banging? Why are you banging the wall all the time? And he said, you're banging the wall. And I said, you know I'm not. He said, I suppose it's the ghosts. He said, you'll be a ghost soon. And then just shut the door in my face. Just strange. Just very, very strange, man.
When Warren told me that Harry said, you'll be a ghost soon, I just couldn't believe it. And Warren was just, take no notice of him, he's just a silly old man, you know.
But the long-term nighttime disturbances began to take their toll on the family.
Worst thing to watch is obviously your children being affected by this. Lucas was affected in a big, big way. He wouldn't go up the stairs. He wouldn't be without one of us at the side of him. He wouldn't go to bed by himself.
Frustrated, Sherry decided to try to get answers from Harry's wife.
I checked that Harry was nowhere to be seen. I was quite on edge, to be fair, thinking he may come back. I knocked on the window. All this time I was thinking, hurry up and answer. It wasn't that what I thought he might do to me, it was what he might do to his wife, because she was talking to me. She looked panicky. I was thinking, oh my God, I better get her inside just in case her husband comes back. So I called her in. I just got straight to the point and I said, look, why is your husband continually banging our wall in the middle of the night? He's actually terrifying my son. Why is he doing it? And she replied, I don't know, Sherry, I don't know. I do try to stop him. He seems to wake up by clockwork. He wakes up at 2, 3 o'clock every morning and decides to bang your wall. And he says, it's because you're banging our wall. And I said to her, you're obviously in the bedroom, so you know that we're not banging the wall, we're fast asleep at that time. And she replied, I try to stop him, and his reply is always, shut up! And she actually did that voice. Oh, it sent shivers through my body. And I actually asked her, does he have mental health issues? And she said no. Well, surely that is not normal behaviour.
But Harry's aggression towards his neighbours didn't end there.
I'm standing there on a Saturday night, it was about 9, 10 o'clock. Just me and a friend talking on the patio. All of a sudden, Harry appears over the fence, hanging over the fence, waving this air rifle. I don't know what it was dark. I presumed it was an air rifle, saying, "You don't know who I am, you don't know what I can do." And it was not making any sense to me what he was saying. He was just waving this gun in my direction, just to, I think, to make sure that I could see it. I told him, "Just do one, go away." And he did it, and he did. He went away.
Assuming it had been an air rifle, Warren once again took little notice of Harry's strange threat. But after 5 years of hell with Harry Street, Warren came to a drastic decision for his family.
We had to move, but we had no choice. It was just getting too much. It was having an effect on our lives, our daily lives. Sleep deprivation was really bad. I ended up on antidepressants, so I had no choice but to move before something serious happened to him or to me.
In June 2013, Warren and Sherry fled from their home because of their neighbour Harry Street.
This is my dad's house, and this is where I thought would be safe.
The Smith family had fled to Warren's dad's house, but only a few weeks later, Harry Street had tracked them down.
I was scared, I was angry, and then at this stage, I don't know, I built up some kind of courage from somewhere and said, "Oh, go away, you stupid old man." And then he went marching really, really fast down the pathway.
It made me horrified. It's just that the man that was banging our walls and like haunting us for a while was standing at the door tormenting my mum.
We'd moved away to get away from him. Why was he looking for us? And by this stage now, I was in blind panic.
She called me and said, "Harry's just been at the front door, saying I've found you. You didn't know I'd find you." I was furious with him, and straight away I decided to go to his house to confront him.
I wasn't really scared of what Harry was going to do to Warren. I was more scared of what Warren was going to do to Harry because, you know, he'd overstepped the mark and he'd come to the property, to his family, and he'd completely and utterly just overstepped the mark.
At that point, the red mist had descended, and I don't know if I pushed the door or whether he opened the door and stepped back. All I remember is I'm in his lounge, I'm in his living room, face to face with him. And when I say face to face, our foreheads were actually touching.
And I was still on the phone at the time to the police officer, and she was saying to me, I'd advise him not to go, tell him not to go to the property, advise him not to go to the property. He's already gone. And
I threatened him, "Don't you ever call down to my dad's property again." And I was shouting, blinding. I was absolutely furious with this bloke. He just looked at me and he didn't say a word. He just growled like a dog and showed his teeth.
The confrontation ended when the police arrived. Warren says he told the police his side of the story and went home to his family. But the next day, the Smiths got a shocking phone call.
The phone rings and I answered the phone, and it was a lady from West Midlands Police. She says that they've uncovered some previous on Harry Street, and we all need to get out of the property. Is it really that serious? She said it absolutely is that serious. You just need not to be in that house tonight.
Warren says he asked the officer what Harry had done, but she told him he didn't need to know.
We'd had 6 years of hell, and this was now gone into another level. It was going into a different direction where all of a sudden my family are in serious danger from what I thought was just an old man. And I needed to know. I needed to know what I was up against, really.
Without knowing what Harry had done, the Smiths took the decision to return to Warren's dad's house after one night away. Warren tried to take what precautions he could to protect his family.
In my mind, the only thing was petrol was going to be poured through the letterbox or something like that. And that's what I prepared myself for.
I just thought, what was he gonna do to us? Like, what would happen if he come to the house and like did something?
The Smith family was living in terror, and they had no idea that Harry's story had started 35 years earlier with a man called Barry Williams, who in 1978 was living next door to the Burkett family, just a few miles away. Ever since the Burketts had moved in, Williams had been complaining about noise. Jill Burkett was 17 at the time.
We thought it was a nice street. We thought, oh, he was just a bit mad, and we didn't really take it seriously. If only we had moved.
On one ordinary October evening, Jill had asked to borrow a book from her best friend Sharon.
We'd both been invited to an 18th birthday party, and Jill wasn't keen on going to the party because she was behind in her assignment, so I just said to her if I'd got time, I would drop the book in to her house on my way out. But as I was running late myself, I didn't take the book.
Sharon went to the party alone that evening, leaving Jill at home to study.
I remember watching Crossroads, and then I got my books out. My brother and my dad were working on his car. Must have been about 7ish, I suppose. My mum was knitting. It was quiet. And the next thing, my brother burst in, clutching his arm, and he was saying, oh, we've been shot. He came in with panic on his face, saying, that madman next door shot us. It was just like, what? I couldn't just take it in, so I jumped up because I was worried about my dad. So I just shouted, my dad, Dad, and I went out the front to open the front door because they were in the driveway, but Barry Williams entered my house from the back, and my mum was following me. I don't know whether she was going to try and stop me going out, and so he shot us both from the back.
Across the quiet neighbourhood, residents were becoming aware that something terrifying was unfolding in Andrew Road.
The first time I heard the gunfire was when my wife knocked on the door, just bringing the dog back from a walk. And that's when I heard what we thought were fireworks. And there was the crack, 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 crack. But there was a significant number of shots. I remember that.
He shot me 5 times in the body, and once in the leg, and then twice in the arms. I think he just basically pumped bullets and wherever they landed, really.
Seriously injured, 17-year-old Jill listened while Barry Williams shot at her brother again.
There were just too many shots and bullets, and he was just lifeless. So I knew straight away, really, there was no hope for my brother.
In just a matter of minutes, Barry Williams had shot Jill's entire family.
It's like your whole body's covered in concrete and you just can't move, or, you know, you're just trying to breathe, really. As I'd lay there, my mum was struggling for breath, and I heard no more breath. So I heard her gasp the last breath. So I knew that she was gone.
But despite terrible injuries, Jill was still alive. Barry Williams escaped the scene, taking his gun with him.
I saw my friend Paul, who lived opposite. We just walked down a little bit. It's only about 10, 15 yards. And that's when we both just looked and saw somebody lying down by the side of the Triumph Spitfire. And that's when we actually both ran home, and I dialed 999.
The first officer on the scene, PC Colin Massey, had been told it was just an air rifle accident.
I'm thinking that I'm attending a normal, everyday incident, something that's happened with an air rifle. There are people I'm aware of on both sides of the house, and as I take my first steps, I can see bodies. And I can tell within seconds that the first body I go to, which is I later found out is the father, is dead. And I then go over to the others. I can see that the daughter, who I later found out is the daughter, is still alive.
I was in and out of consciousness in the drive. Obviously it was dark, but I was still aware there was a crowd at the bottom of my drive. One man came forward and he said, "I don't really love the ambulance is on its way."
I can remember trying to reassure the daughter, Jill, feeling very, very agitated whilst waiting for the ambulance. I could see the condition Jill was in and knew that she needed help and needed it there and then.
Colin Massey was also the first to see the scene inside the house at Andrew Road.
There was blood on the walls, there was splashes from blood from gunshot wounds, there was bullet casings lying on the floor. And I could see the mother and the son lying in the hallway. Very, very quickly ascertained that they were both dead.
As the first senior officer on the scene, Chris Denley called for armed backup and knocked on the door of Barry Williams' house.
I think his mother answered the door, and mother and father were sat in the front room watching television, and all this had gone on outside their house and they were oblivious to it. We had to explain to them what had happened. And I know that was 7:30 when we went in there because the television was on and the theme tune to Coronation Street was playing as we walked into the house, and that's very vividly in my mind. I mean, over the years I've been involved in various investigations, but this was probably the worst.
Later that night, Jill's best friend Sharon passed the house on her way home from the party to which the two girls had been invited.
All I seem to remember is all the windows, all the glass was out of the front windows, and the front door was open. And I just remember being conscious I needed to get home, find out what on earth has happened to Jill's house. My mum and dad were all in tears, and then they just told me that Jill had been shot by the neighbour and she was critically ill in hospital. I just went numb, really.
By the time he was finally arrested the following day, Barry Williams had shot at least 8 people, including the owners of a petrol station in nearby Nuneaton. In total, 5 people were dead.
I remember seeing him in the custody suite, and I remember to this day thinking, how can such an insignificant man cause so much carnage?
When he was arrested, Williams told a police officer, "You'd have shot them if you'd have been me. They weren't human beings, they were things." Williams said, "After I'd done it, I felt better."
They weren't noisy at all. They were a normal family, I think, from what I could gather. That was his excuse or his reason for killing them. I find that very hard to come to terms with, but that was the reason he gave.
In March 1979, while Jill was still in hospital, Williams, diagnosed with schizophrenia, pleaded guilty to 5 counts of manslaughter. He was sent to the high-security psychiatric hospital, Broadmoor. Despite having been shot 8 times, 17-year-old Jill survived and went to live with her aunt and uncle.
I just was determined he wasn't going to ruin my life like that. And my mum would not have wanted him to have ruined my life like that.
Eventually, Jill got married, and against the doctor's predictions, she had a family of her own.
They did say that because a lot of my injuries were in that area, that I probably wouldn't be able to have children, but I did. I was very, very lucky. I felt absolutely the luckiest person on earth, because that's all I ever wanted, children, really.
What Jill didn't know was that news of Barry Williams was going to take her right back and have her fearing for her safety.
I was just blown away. I was just absolutely scared stiff. I was shocked he'd been let out so soon. I knew one day would come, he would be released, and I always believed he would come back and get me and finish the job. had no idea they were even thinking of that, and I was just totally shocked, dumbfounded.
After his release, Barry Williams had come back to Birmingham, and his return was going to have a devastating impact on Warren and Sherry Smith. After 3 terrifying nights, the couple had a call from one of the neighbours at their old house next to Harry's.
The neighbour phoned us and said initially the police were there, and then she rings back. It's like a running commentary and tells us armed response are there. And the next thing, the bomb squad are there. And then there's guys in army uniforms, there's all kinds going on. They cordoned off all the road.
Concerned about what might be happening, Warren and Sherry drove to the home that they had fled.
We pulled over and there's a police officer outside who I recognised had been one of the many police that had called round in the previous years, and Sherry straight away started asking him, is he on the loose? What's going on? My son's in the local school. He said to us, don't worry, he's been arrested. Your son is in no danger. He said to us, you don't know about this? And we said, know about what? And he said, you need to know about this man. He was right, yeah, we did need to know.
For Harry Street to go to the lengths that he did in terms of searching and finding them out, that then did start to set alarm bells ringing in terms of this is not common behaviour, and that eventually was how we came to identify Harry Street's true identity. Harry Street was actually Barry Williams. He was responsible for killing 5 people following a neighbour dispute in 1978.
We were sitting at Warren's dad's house and we were all gathered in the lounge, and we were told to wait there for the police officers to come as they had something to discuss with us. They said that actually Harry Street was not actually Harry Street, he was actually Barry Williams, and that he'd served 15 years in Broadmoor, and that he'd slaughtered his neighbours for noise. Oh God, it's just a completely and utterly devastating, sick at the pit of the stomach feeling where all these times he's told us, you don't know who I am and what I can do. He could have done it to us.
Warren's dad, Les, remembers the moment he heard about the fate that his son's family had so narrowly escaped.
I came in and the 2 police were there, and Warren looked over at me as I came in from the back there, from the garden. He said, Dad, he says, you'll never guess, you know, what Ali's done. He said he's shot 8 people, he said. He's killed 5 of them. And, you know, I couldn't believe it at the time. I thought, God. Basically, what could have happened?
At Harry Street's house, next door to the Smiths' old home in Hazelville Road, the police had found 6 guns, ammunition and a homemade bomb.
All the emotions started coming from that point. We'd just been sitting ducks, really. It was completely out of my hands. Doesn't matter what I would have done, I couldn't have defended against an automatic handgun.
Just a few miles away, Jill Burkitt was about to hear the news she'd been dreading for 35 years.
It's just a normal working day for me. The police were waiting for me in reception. They said it's about Barry Williams, who's now called Harry Street. They said that he's almost done the same thing again to another nice family, and he was actually living just about 6 miles from where I lived in Birmingham. All that time when he was released, I'd been afraid he was going to find me, and he was actually just living down the road.
The police admit that they should have known Harry Street's true identity.
Inside of the policing environment, we did not know that information. That's not, by the way, to say we shouldn't have known it. That information might have been captured on the systems that were around then, but it certainly wasn't known in 2013 to the police officers that were dealing with it at the time.
In October 2014, Barry Williams went to court to face 10 charges, including possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life and possession of a controlled explosive. Jill Burkitt decided to go to the trial and face the man who 35 years before had killed her entire family.
People didn't want me to go in, and I was determined I was going to go in there because stuff was being said about my family, and, you know, I wanted to hear it this time. I didn't have the chance first time round, and I wanted to be there for my family. I was pretty scared to face him in court. He did look at me. He looked away. We just looked, and then he looked away. And he was so agitated. It was like he felt contempt at being there. It was like, why am I being here? Why are you here? There was no remorse in them eyes at all.
Barry Williams, aka Harry Street, was sent to a secure psychiatric hospital, and the judge ordered that he be held indefinitely. He never admitted intent to kill, but the judge was convinced that a copycat mass murder was only narrowly averted.
The similarities were just uncanny. It was like as if he was reenacting exactly the same thing all those years on, really.
How are you, Jill? You're all right, love? I'm all right.
It was at the trial that Warren and Sherry Smith met Jill Burkitt for the first time.
We're both very fond of Jill. You know, she's a warm, honest person. And the way she went into court and she faced that man, that was the last time she's seen him, he was slaughtering her family and pumping bullets into her. I mean, for her to do that, it takes some real special person.
And for Jill, 35 years after she lost her family, the latest twist in the story has had one positive effect.
The only good thing out of it, Jill, is your family being vindicated, because we were a normal family, just like your family was.
It was so misrepresented at the time. People were saying we were noisy neighbours. So although I felt sorry for Warren and his family, that really, in a way, vindicates my family, because another nice family who just lived a normal life like we did was, you know, being treated in the same way that we were. And I firmly believe they would have had the same fate as my family.
On Christmas Eve 2014, Barry Williams died of a heart attack in Ashurst Secure Hospital. His victims are still coping with the legacy of the man who was their next-door neighbour.
I'm having nightmares still now. I think it's had a big effect on me, because I couldn't have done anything about it. It was completely out of my hands. The end result was going to be the same. And that's something I couldn't do anything about, and that haunted me for a long time.
You can't not see what that man took from me. My children never know their grandparents. I'm sure they're looking down feeling proud, but you know, I still have that heartbreak that they never met them. I'll always miss my family. You know, that never goes away, even 30-odd years.
3 years ago, Julie Reid moved into a property in a small block of 10 flats in Chesham.
My boyfriend already lived there for 6 months when I moved in. I was living at Ireland at the time. It was just to stop the long distance. It wasn't really working for us. I was aware that one of the neighbours was a little bit eccentric, as the landlord put it.
The block of flats where they were renting had a communal car park, and it was here that Julie first met her new neighbour, Judith Robinson, just 1 week after moving in.
I was going to my car, and as I was about to get in, Judith came from round behind me. It was the first time I'd officially met her.
She was very rude. She didn't introduce herself. She proceeded to tell me that I wasn't allowed to park where I was because I didn't live there. I tried to explain to her that I'd just moved in.
Julie decided it was best to avoid her neighbour, but that wouldn't be easy.
We were in bed, it was about 1 a.m, and we were woken up by the sound of the doorbell ringing, and then someone holding their finger down on the doorbell, so it was sort of continuous. We were a bit worried as to why someone thought maybe it was some sort of emergency. So I think Paul was a bit surprised when he got to the door and it was just Judith standing there.
Our neighbour Judith had a high-powered torch which she shone in his face and babbled incoherently about our kitchen worktop. My boyfriend followed her round the building because he didn't understand what she was saying, and it seems that while we'd been out, a kitchen worktop had been delivered and left face down in my car parking space, and because there weren't any lights, I hadn't seen it and I parked on it without noticing. She was insisting that I should get out of my bed and move the car because I was damaging her kitchen worktop.
Julie was starting to get the idea that her neighbour was a little more than just eccentric and used her mobile phone to start documenting some of Judith's behaviour.
If you went to the bathroom in the middle of the night and Judith was in the garden, it could be as late as sort of 2 or 3 in the morning. She would sort of make howling noises. Sometimes the howling would be like screeching or saying words.
You stupid car.
Or other times it could be like wolf howling or owl noises. One time I was in the bathroom, probably about 2 or 3 a.m. She started yelling, "Kill it." I'm assuming to our cat, but it was really creepy.
But it wasn't just strange noises that Julie found disturbing when her neighbour Judith was in the garden.
There was a lot of her sort of staring into our windows. She gave us the finger quite a lot if we were in the kitchen. She'd get her torch out late at night, sort of 10, 11, and start shining it in our windows.
Julie and Paul just wanted a quiet life and tried to avoid running into their neighbour. But the car park was on shared ground.
I came down to my car one morning and found that my wiper blade had been rotated down, so it was pointing in the wrong direction.
And that wasn't all.
Happening quite regularly that when I came down to my car, the wing mirrors would have been moved, pointing completely the wrong direction that you wouldn't be able to drive with. I mean, I had pretty strong suspicions that it was more than likely Judith because she'd been out in the garden making a lot of noise the night before. We'd been in the flat about a year and Judith's behaviour got to the sort of annoyed us enough that we decided to phone the police. And there's a dedicated police officer at Cheshire Police that deals with her, which should have told us something. It was kind of a bit of an eye-opener because we just thought that she was a bit of a sad old lady at that point, and actually it turned out she'd had like a 20-year history of terrorising the building.
In the last 12 years, the amount of harassment cases reported to the police has more than doubled, and PC Phil Thompson had been aware of the problems with Judith since joining the branch 3 years previously. But the one thing he was lacking was hard evidence.
Every previous victim that was being harassed by Judith had dropped out. The first time I met Julie, I had to lay it out to them. Are you going to give statements? Are you going to record what you're being exposed to? Are you willing to have CCTV? Because it's quite an involved process to be able to prove what they were telling me was going on.
Desperate to end their broken nights and get some peace, Julie and Paul agreed to do what was needed to catch Judith in the act.
We'd hoped that the CCTV camera would be a deterrent, but actually she just sort of escalated.
I was out in the garden putting up my washing and Judith came out and confronted me about the camera. She was really aggressive about it, trying to say that the camera was looking into her flat, that we were spying on her. I tried to explain to her that basically we got the camera because on a few occasions my wipers and my mirrors had been tampered with. She told me this was ridiculous, no one was touching my car. As I was trying to leave the garden, she sort of got into my space, she wouldn't let me past. And then as I was walking around the building, she came like a few steps behind me, shouting at me that I was harassing her. What was I getting out of this? Why would I want to spy on an old woman?
We have asked Judith for her version of events. She told us that she felt she was being harassed by Julie and Paul, and that the problems only started when they put up their CCTV cameras. Julie, however, was feeling more and more singled out.
No, it kind of became apparent that she really tended to focus on me more than my boyfriend. Quite often, if I was getting out of the car, she'd come round out of her flat as if she was going to speak to me, and then she'd see him and she'd about turn and go back in.
According to Phil, this was typical of the woman he had been tracking for 3 years.
My experience of dealing with Judith is that she will select the most vulnerable, typically a female that lives at this location, to target. And Julie was that person, and she got the worst from Judith.
Scared when home alone, Julie tried to get on with her life.
So I came down one morning and noticed that there was a long scratch sort of on this side of my passenger panel and along here somewhere as well, that hadn't been there the night before. So I went back upstairs and checked the CCTV, and it appeared to show Judith walking past my car, holding something shiny and sort of brushing up against it in both those places. And then a couple of nights later, she was having a rant in the garden, and she came running up to the CCTV camera, shaking her house keys and yelling that we hadn't caught the culprit yet.
You must have caught the culprit by now. So what good is this? What good is this? Huh?
For PC Phil, this was the sort of evidence he'd been waiting for.
You could see her on camera go over and inspect her handiwork from where the vehicle had been damaged. To me, she was taunting them and trying to seek out confrontation.
Julie and Paul's CCTV was going 24/7, but the constant taunts were also being recorded on Julie's phone.
Come on, come on, come on. Here I am. What are you going to do, eh? What are you going to do, eh?
There were occasions where she'd just shout, wipers, mirrors, and sort of a really shrill, it's a really freaky voice that she used.
Wipers! Got to talk to wipers! Mirrors!
Wipers, mirrors, and...
Mirrors! Wipers!
I think she just wanted to upset me more than anything else.
For me to prove what was going on, that was key.
PC Thompson was looking forward to making an arrest, but would he have enough evidence to convict Judith of harassment?
At that time, we were kind of having to phone the police emergency line sort of every other day, sometimes twice a day. There was pretty much every day there was something.
But things were about to reach boiling point.
One evening when Judith was outside in the garden, and I went to go to the bathroom, but when I turned my bathroom light on, she sort of came over to underneath the window and started shouting abuse at one point. She threatened that her lodger was going to be there the next day, and when he found out about this, that I'd be sorry. So it just really didn't make me feel very safe in the property anymore.
This threat was enough for the police to finally make a move.
There was about 8 or 9 police officers, I think, in 4 vans. Comforting to know that they did take it as seriously, because it's not a major crime at the end of the day, but it is something that had quite a severe effect on not just our lives, but like all of the residents.
For PC Thompson, the arrest was the culmination of years of hard work.
We had a lot of conversations over the years. I'd laid out the law to her quite firmly that this had to stop. It was going to end this way eventually. And she was very arrogant, very cocky. She'd make spurious complaints and carry on offending. And the day that I walked into her house to finally arrest her, you could see it on her face that this time she was in trouble. So on the day of the arrest, when I was the last person to leave, and as I left, all the other residents from the block at that time congregated on this corner and gave me a standing ovation for taking her away.
Judith pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of harassment and 1 of criminal damage for scratching Julie's car. The CCTV footage and audio clips Paul and Julie had recorded were used as evidence.
The footage shown in court speaks for itself. There is virtually nothing Judith could have said to get out of what she'd done.
Judith was found guilty of all charges, and she was fined £500, given a 9-week suspended sentence, and Julie won a restraining order preventing Judith from contacting or harassing her. Judith declined to take part in this film, but she insists that she is innocent of all charges. Paul and Julie have now moved away from the area.
It's really nice just not being able to go outside and not have to worry about who's watching you or about getting abuse shouted at you. It's good.
She is a very, very nasty, horrible person, and that comes across quite clearly. If you had to live beside that, you would not last. You would be moving as soon as possible.